Excellent. Can you hear me? No? Okay, mic is happening. Good afternoon. Hopefully everyone had a few minutes to have a few bites to eat. My name is Kathleen Sherwin. I am the Chief Strategy Engagement Officer of Plan International and your moderator for a wonderful session, Placing Gender Equality and Youth at the Heart of Gender Transformative Education. And today we're going to talk about youth leadership, we're going to talk about gender equality and climate change education. So we have 30 minutes. Okay, this is rapid fire, so get ready everyone. And we have three very, very powerful young people and young women here. We have Renata from Brazil, we have Nelly from Ecuador, which will come on the screen in a little bit, and Salha from Tanzania. And all are really making remarkable progress on gender transformative education in their communities. And they will be in dialogue. So I have a very easy job today, but they will be in dialogue with three well-known leaders in our space, the Honorable Madalitso Kambauwa, the Minister of Education of the Republic of Malawi. Thank you so much, Minister. The amazing and powerful Yasmine Sherif, you heard her this morning, the ED of Education, cannot wait. And very soon, she is traveling from another part of COP. We will see Dr. Heike Kuhn, who is the head of Division of Education for the Federal Ministry of Economic Cooperation and Development of Germany, BMZ. So we have a number of really remarkable speakers. So we're going to learn three things in 30 minutes, so we're speeding ahead. One is what gender transformative climate change education actually is. That's a very long word. What does it actually mean? What is the impact of climate change on girls' education? And perhaps most importantly, what are Indigenous young people doing in terms of driving and advancing climate justice through education? So we're going to learn a lot. So we'll have three different pairs together, and then we'll do a rapid fire, one commitment that we're going to all leave this room at the very end. So without further ado, let's introduce our first pair. So we have, of course, Renata and the Minister. So over to you.
Thank you so much. Is this working? Can you hear me well?
Yes, we can hear you.
Amazing. Well, hi everyone. Such a pleasure to be here. I know we don't have too much time, but I'm really excited to, as a young person, be able to be here and have this high-level exchange. We don't often have that space to do that, to have this exchange between decision makers, people in power, and young activists. So it's super, super special to be here. I'll keep it brief, but I did want to share a little bit about what gender transformative education is. I don't know, maybe show of hands, have you heard of it? I know you're in this event, but are you familiar with it? Okay, there's a couple. Because I think it's important to differentiate girls' education or access to girls' education from gender transformative education, right? We're talking way beyond access. We're talking about including everyone, not just girls, in changing societal norms, in shifting the power about how we go about education, right? What is the lens that we're going to talk about climate education with? Are we considering race? Are we considering gender, class, age? All of these intersections are absolutely crucial if we actually do want to shift the power. And at least for me, I believe education is at the core of everything we do when it comes to climate. I lead an organization. We have a couple of our amazing leaders here called Empodera Clima, where we do girls' education for climate, but also trying to really bring this gender transformative climate education agenda to the policy level in Brazil, in Latin America. So it's great to be here. I'm excited to ask a question to the wonderful Minister of Malawi, Mr. Wirima. And so given all of these systemic challenges that we have, right, to even move beyond just girls' education, access these systemic oppressions and inequalities and change the scenario, I'd love to know more about what you're doing in Malawi to implement gender transformative education.
Hello. Is my mic on? Can you hear me? All right. I would like to use the sophisticated-looking one. Good afternoon to you all. We don't have a lot of time, and thank you very much to the organizers of the session for having us, for hosting us. So in Malawi, there are a lot of interventions that we are doing in the education sector. But just before I delve deeper into the subject, just to say that as the Ministry of Education, we are responsible for the primary school, what we call as, everybody knows as primary school, and then secondary education, and then the tertiary, which is like the university. So the early childhood learning is actually placed in the Ministry of Gender. I just wanted to make that kind of clarification in the in the beginning. But there's so many interventions that we are working on, knowing that in our part of the world, it's because of a lot of marginalized, because most of the population is marginalized, and that becomes even worse with women and even with girls. So there are several interventions that are happening right now. I will speak, and I'm trying to summarize, and it's very hard when you have a lot to say and you have to compact that. So at the early learning subsector, which is domiciled in another ministry, the Ministry of Gender, we are trying to make sure that in liaison with our sister ministry, we still have to make sure that early learning gets the place in the country, in the education space that it deserves. Because when we talk of education, especially in Africa, historically you find that girls are left behind. And because girls are left behind, you find that it's also the girls and the women that are faced with the most of the challenges. And this, the challenges that they're faced with, they get even exacerbated even with the climatic shocks now. Because in these kind of countries, you have women in the homes or girls in the homes where they have, first of all, to go fetch water. They have, just giving examples, they have to fetch firewood to make their meals. They have to do a lot of chores which are actually nature interlinked. And when nature now becomes disturbed because of climatic shocks, you find that the challenges of the girls and the women gets even exacerbated. So if we are, as education, going to make sure that ECE, which is the early childhood learning, actually takes center stage, is actually given the importance that it deserves, then we'll make sure that even from the beginning, girls are given the space, girls are encouraged to be in school. Because from early childhood development or early childhood learning, when there's girls that are 4 and then transitioning to primary school in their 6th years, we'll make sure that now the girls when in the primary school, then these girls are actually able to learn and have meaningful educational outcomes. These girls coming from early childhood development will now be able to learn without having to repeat the classes, because now they have a strong background from early childhood learning, and then that they'll stay in school, they'll love school, they'll understand it better, and they'll make sure that they proceed all the way to finishing primary school, all the way to secondary school, and all the way to university. When these women are empowered, then most of the challenges that they have, but that even sometimes put pressure on climatic shocks or even put pressure on climatic shocks will not be there, because a more empowered woman, a more empowered girl will not go. I'll just use an example: go fetch firewood, because they will be working. They'll be empowered in a way that they can actually fend for themselves in a way. Like, I'll just give an example. Maybe instead of using firewood as it is in the forest, they'll be able to buy liquid petroleum gas and be able to cook with that, where we are able to save our forest. In the meantime, I would say currently, most of our population is based in the rural setup, where, like I said, we use a lot of firewood for powering our meals. We have to fetch water from water sources. And just to connect these two, when I was saying that the challenges that we have from the climate also means that even if they are there, then it also means that for girls to also go to school, it's also a challenge, because sometimes their mothers will even prefer to have these girls work or help in the home instead of having these girls to go to school. For example, if the water sources are now further from the homes as before, it means that these girls will have to go further to fetch for water sources, and these kind of activities that they'll have to do, even fetching their firewood, sometimes can even get in the way of even their studying. Let's just give an example of a girl who had to fetch for water maybe 1 kilometer away from home, just an example. And now the water source is 2 kilometers away, just because of the water not being available as it was before. They also maybe have to fetch firewood further, maybe 3 kilometers away. It also means that this is also eating into their time of studying, because then the more they have to engage in this kind of chores, then also the little they have time to concentrate on education. But going back to education, we have a lot of interventions, knowing that maybe we've lost time because maybe some of the girls didn't go to the ECE, the early childhood education. So we have interventions where, starting from my primary schools, where we have advocacy that is just encouraging girls to go to school, but also stay in school, where we even engaging the communities to say that fathers and mothers, they need to understand the importance of sending a girl as well as a boy to school. Not only that the boy is the one that has to go to school, meanwhile the girl is left out. And we also, even when the dividends show, we've noted that an empowered woman is more effective in the way they distribute resources, unlike an empowered man. We are not leaving the boys behind, but this is a gender issue, so now we are placing emphasis on the girls. And the advocacy that's here in the basic education is going all the way to secondary and university. I'll give you examples where we have had to make partnerships where we make sure that those girls that are in schools, especially secondary school, and they can't complete secondary schools, have organizations that are actually paying for their school fees, because we want to make sure that even if these girls are coming from marginalized backgrounds, but they have to make sure that they see their education all the way to secondary school. We have also the same, like even in universities, where there's some partnerships that have been made where are just looking at girls to make sure that the girls do not drop out, that they take their learning all the way out to the end. So in a nutshell, I think I can just put it at that those interventions, they might not be very well coordinated, but they are deliberate policies in the Ministry of Education, but also being interlinked with the cross sectors of health and gender to make sure that girls stay in school. I am mentioning of health. I know I'm out of time.
Yes.
We're also working with Planning International. I see Madam Planning International is right there. A lot of other health partners who are also making sure that issues of reproductive health,
yes,
where sometimes girls can also be victims, are looked into in such a way that these girls can actually go on with their education. So advisory roles, but actually the issues like contraceptions, where there are actually spaces, not maybe sometimes in schools, but spaces where our girls know that they can go to so that they can go on with their education. There's something else that's coming to mind, but it was very important. I've lost it, but I'll give it back to you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Renata's, just thank you first for making that excellent point about access to education. It's very different than gender transformative education, and also the importance of early childhood education. So very, very important. Next, we are going to turn to Nelly, who is a 23-year-old from the Pahura indigenous community in Ecuador. She is a member of Because I Am a Girl movement. And of course, we have Yasmine Sherif, the CEO of Education Cannot Wait. Nelly was in transit and had a visa challenge and found her way back. However, at 6 a.m. yesterday morning, she put this video together. So I know sometimes we ignore videos, but I really want us to listen to what Nelly has to say. So if we can cue the video, and there will be a question, Yasmine, for you. Okay? The video, please.
Amati kungariji, runa wawa kuna iwarmi kuna Latin America pituki mundo because kunate. Good afternoon. I am Nelly, a young indigenous Puro from Ecuador, and I am a leader and representative of the Because I Am a Girl movement, which is a civil society organization formed by adolescent women and men who are aware of the reality of our country and its problems. As a group, we fight for girl young women rights, and we raise our voices against gender-based violence. The movement also includes young women from Venezuela who have to leave their country and their families because of the effect of social and humanitarian crisis. They are part of the most affected girls and women in times of emergencies and disaster caused by climate change. I am also an Ecuadorian representative of the Global Youth Panel for Education in Emergencies. We address and seek solutions to the educational needs in times of emergencies caused by climate change, which limits girls from achieving their goals and dreams in our regions. As a young woman living in indigenous communities, I have experienced the lack of opportunities to participate in decision-making spaces due to structural inequalities that have been historically imposed on us. I think it will be good to deepen the reflection about the reality of education for girls, boys, adolescents, and indigenous population in Latin America and the Caribbean, and why it is urgent to include women leadership and indigenous knowledge in the fields of education and training. As you may know, Latin America and the Caribbean students from vulnerable backgrounds are affected by the low quality of education and lack of resources. One of the main reasons is that our governments allocate insufficient budgets to meet the educational need, especially for indigenous communities suffering from poverty, climate change, inequality, and social exclusion. This reality is deepened by their inadequate response to climate change emergencies that reduce the access to education and usually increases school dropouts. This has a greater impact on girls and young women because of their gender. Ecuador is a plurinational country with 14 indigenous nationalities. This more than 1 million people of the 70 million inhabitants, according to our National Institute of Statistics in 2022. Indigenous communities coexist with nature in different ways than urban populations, and they have knowledge, practice, and values that historically have been based on respect and care for the environment, as it has been and remains being our main source of living. We have to remember that indigenous knowledge, skill, and philosophies have been developed by societies throughout a long history of interaction with their environment. In the Andean worldview, nature is a Pachamama, which means Mother Earth, so our tradition and custom resolve around the conservation, preservation, and protection of the earth as a path toward equality relation between people and nature. This is also the basis for achieving spiritual harmony with the earth that provides everything we need to live. Sadly, I must say, the knowledge of the diverse indigenous communities in my country is not considered in the educational field. Therefore, I am speaking on behalf of thousands of indigenous youth who do not have the privilege of standing here and speak up about our reality. Today, I want you to think about the importance of making relevant commitments to an inclusive education that incorporates indigenous knowledge and practices, an education oriented to the preservation of the environment in which indigenous girls and women have an active role to use their wisdom. Today, I make a call to action to create more resilient communities aware of the inequalities caused by climate crisis, where the main victims are always children, adolescents, and women. It is necessary for all of us to seek strategies that mainstream indigenous knowledge in our societies with education as the main tool. As a result, children, youngsters, adults will have the knowledge about the environment, care-based and coexistence, and harmony with nature according to indigenous tradition. Imagine a world where every person is an agent of change using this wisdom. We will have a human ecosystem creating solutions for climate change. It does not matter if you were not born inside an indigenous communities. I invite you to learn a more respectful way of living. For me, being able to speak here in front of you is a key opportunity to demonstrate that indigenous women and girls from any part of the world can take part in decision-making spaces. Dear Yasmine, as the education of indigenous girls, migrant girls, and other girls from vulnerable backgrounds across Latin America has been impacted by the climate crisis, in your role as Director of Education cannot wait, whose main objective is that no one is left behind. What is ECW doing to address this and ensure that grassroots organizations, including indigenous and girl-led organizations, are shaping strategies that are promoting gender transformative climate change education? Thanks.
Applause. That was pretty good at 6 a.m. to put that together. So Yasmine, over to you. I'd love to hear what ECW is doing.
Yeah. Is it working?
Please.
No.
Oh,
Try this.
Is it working? No, I use yours.
okay.
No, it's not working.
Oh, there we go.
Is it?
There we go. Perfect.
Okay, first of all, thank you, Nelly. And thank well, I'm sad that she doesn't see me right now, but I hope she feels
We're
us.
videoing this.
That you were not able to join us. And I'm looking at that camera because of visa issues. And I think, let me start by this. There are 2 points. Nelly represents girls' right to an education, but she also represents an indigenous population. Yeah. And I think it's very important that we realize that these are the 2 categories that are furthest left behind when it comes to education. Yes, there are also children with disabilities, but I have a concern about cultures getting destroyed. That's the kind of world we live in today. And frankly speaking, when I look at the way the world looks today, we are all here trying to solve climate change, and we're here trying to prevent genocide, and we're here trying to end wars, and we're here trying to end extreme poverty. And it's all these men who created this world. We need more women! Yes! We need people who make the journey between the head and the heart. And women are particularly good at that. So that education cannot wait as a matter of principle, as a matter of an ethical choice, as a matter of being human rights based. We put in an investment of 60% of education has to go to girls and adolescent girls. We want them not to be the children left furthest behind, but actually to be the ones at the forefront, taking the lead. And that's why it's so important to invest in indigenous populations education and in girls' education. And we have taken a very affirmative action for that. We believe that climate change is not gender neutral. Girls and adolescent girls are always the first affected. Yes. And indigenous populations are the last that receives the quality education. And when I was in Colombia, because education cannot wait, we have a very big program implemented in Latin America, starting for the Venezuelan refugees, but also for host families in Venezuela, Peru, and Colombia, and indigenous populations. And I actually had the chance and the privilege to meet with the indigenous populations when I was there on my last visit. And I think we have so much to learn from them. Maybe you've all heard about the treasures coming out of Peru, for those who have read about the great science and foresightness that was there long time before we sat here. So it's important not to lose that culture, lose that role that is played by them. So in Latin America, since Nelly is from Latin America and represents those stakeholders, there's always a huge risk for girls to be drawn into prostitution and sexual violence, early marriages, and be part of also, there's a huge problem of, we have the Venezuelan refugees, but also the drugs that are circulating and has become a major business. So the best we can do in Latin America, and which we are doing with our big investments, is exactly what Nelly said, is to invest in the local community leaders, in the feminist groups, in the adolescent girls and youth organizations because they know what needs to be done. Instead of waiting for us to come from far away land and trying to figure out what do you need, listen to them. They were born there, they live there, they know the challenges, they know the opportunities. So I cannot emphasize enough how important it is to listen to those we serve. Then they will serve us so that we can do a better job in delivering a quality education to them. And especially when you are affected by both conflict or forced displacement and climate change. And often we are speaking about the triple of burdens placed on them. And I don't want to go on too long, but I would say again, 60% of our investments, which are pooled funding. We are not an ages education cannot wait. We bring everyone together, we end the silos. We are not here to say, please fund this agency, please fund that organization, and Plan International and GPE, another global fund, UNGE. You know how we operate because we operate with you. It's all about catalyzed funding so that we can do more with the funding that we receive by working together. The time of me running that way and you that way, those times are over. So I would like to conclude by saying that we just launched right here, right now. And it's Education Cannot Wait for the entire platform of all our partners. Plan is one of them, UN agencies, Save the Children, and many local organizations, and UNGE, is what we can do to provide an emergency appeal of $150 million to reach 2 million children here and now, in addition to the multi-year investments we are making to continuously invest in sustainable education, where we changed normative framework to be supportive of and the social norms for girls' education, empower girls as leaders, and sensitizing the boys and the teachers. Denmark, just before I came, pledged an additional $6.7 million to this appeal. And I'm hoping that all the youth here, all the girls advocates, all advocates, please share this. Because if we are living in a world where in 2022, 1.2 trillion were invested in military investments. And we're asking for $150 million, please. So if we can invest that in military means, we can invest at least 150 million. And let me conclude, because on the panel, and I want to give a big applaud, we have Germany that actually came in for multi-year investment for Education Cannot Wait. And today, actually, which corresponds to 1/3 of Education Cannot Wait's $1.6 billion. I think Germany deserves
Congratulations. Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you, Heike. Heike is also our co-chair of our our executive steering group. Maybe you will be the high-level steering group one day. You never know.
Excellent.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Yasmine, and thank you, Nelly. Just such an important point about ensuring that that educational funds are going to local communities, girl and youth-led organizations, and indigenous communities. So essential. We have one more group. I'm going to ignore the clock. There's a minute and a half left. We're going to take 10 minutes because that's how much we lost. And our last pairing, of course, is Salha Aziz, a GPE youth leader and also the executive director of the Binta Salha Foundation. And of course, thank you. We're also here with Dr. Heike Kuhn, who's the head of education for BMZ. So over to the both of you.
Wow, thank you so much. First of all, I would like to appreciate this opportunity. It's a privilege and an honor for me to represent majority of youth behind us. I'm Salha Aziz from Tanzania. I'm so happy for this chance to talk to you, Doctor. You are such a decision maker. It's what I've just heard here just in a few minutes. I'm shaking. So
We got you.
So I would like to first of all start with sharing the experience of what is happening on the ground. I've heard from the previous speakers, as we have heard from the previous discussion, and we also have heard from our neighbor, Honorable Minister from Malawi. That is actually what is really happening in the community. Like, as I speak right now, from when I started my primary education, I have lost a lot of friends who didn't make it in education. A lot of them have lost their direction. A lot of them have been confused with life because they don't see the future of their lives. And this is because they have been getting pregnant, but also others were missing classes due to menstrual hygiene and management. But there are others who were displaced with their families because of the climate issues. But also, I have friends that have been missing school, being late because they have to go far to fetch water, to collect firewood, so that they can have something in their families. But others dropped out from school because they have to engage into economic activities so that they can earn something. And there are those who just had to be married because the family has nothing and they're very poor, so they have to get money from like the dowry for the family. So it's really an issue, and all these girls have lost their future as we speak right now, and they still keep losing their futures, keeping dropping out from schools. We thank God that for the first time we've got the female president in Tanzania, Madam Samia Suluhu Hassan. And for the first time in our life since we got the independence, which is tomorrow actually, she made a statement on re-entry just 2 years ago. But as we speak until now, we do not have re-entry in our education policy, and it's still a challenge because the government has seen it is a good thing to allow girls to go back to school to end the gender gap. But when they look at the infrastructures, when they look at the education needs, like the teachers' recruitment and staffs, we do not have enough resources for that. So the government has just decided that to be just a statement, just for anyone to go back when you want or when you can. But it is supposed to be something that is under the government, that it has to be invested enough so that these girls can go back to school. So it is really an issue for these girls to go back to the same school, to the same situations. And this is happening right now when there is no disasters. But as we speak, our president was here at COP, but in Tuesday she has to go back to Tanzania as we have a disaster, like it is a mess. Like we have El Nino, there is drought everywhere. So as we speak right now, girls are still affected. They are not going to school, they are displaced, people are dying. So it is really an issue when it comes to education and gender. So my question is, Doctor, I would really like to hear from you. What are the key actions that can be taken by the institutions to build the systems that can ensure every girl can access education, even when there are crises, whether it's disease outbreaks, whether it's climate change, whether it's war? What can be done to have the resilient systems in education?
Okay, can I answer?
Yes.
Yes, please.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
There we go.
So,
The traditional ones.
thank you, Sally. And I'm so glad that I'm here. And excuse me a little bit for being late. I just come from Tanzania. But this was not the reason I was here yesterday. But I come from another panel on the disabled. So I had to go over there. And these are even the girls left most behind, those with disabilities. And I come from Tanzania, and we had a school visit, and I know exactly what you say, because the board of GPE, Global Partnership of Education, had just a meeting over there. And I say this because your president, I met her on Wednesday. I was among the lucky ones. She was there. And I'm so glad that you are interviewing me, but because I've seen this commitment from your government, from this female leader, how she is investing in this, and this I just want to convey the message. So I was released, but now I will come to my the question you were posing to me. As Germany, we see this, and we are investing a lot in education, in especially in girls. You may know that Germany, I also have a female leader, a minister for development, a woman, and we have a feminist development policy. Also, the foreign policy by the leader is a feminist. So we look really to girls and to women everywhere, because it's so important. Why? It is more than half of the world's population. So I believe, coming to your question, all girls are already, and I listened to the minister of Malawi. Girls need to be empowered. Often, and on Monday when we were in the school, they were asking in the school, what do you want to be when you are grown up? Most young men had profession, but there were these nice little girls saying, I want to help my mother. So this is what girls are all about. They want to do care work. And what happens in the end? We have elderly, we have children, and who looks after them? It's mostly women. And this is their role model. So we need to change the world, because the stereotypes, they hinder everybody in their personalities, because also very many men could be good caretakers, and they are. So thinking about girls in rural areas, girls everywhere, in your country everywhere, we really need to change the system. The system which is running is not, Yasmine pointed it out, what are we doing? Buying tanks, doing military, but we should look that girls get educated, or everybody get educated, and get trained and get vaccinated. We just went all through worldwide to a pandemic, so this is important. You were telling some things. We just heard also for the dormitories in Tanzania, in your country, if people young girls are so far away. I've seen this also in Morocco, in places, then they sleep with the grandparents just to reach to school. And then, but the dormitories, they are not safe. If you go see the wash facilities, this is many things where we are working, and I believe we don't have enough toilets on this world. If I would have something to say, I would put 7 for men but 12 for women. Because the women often go there with the little girls and boys, and they have other needs, but we don't think about it. And this is what happens. And then when it is difficult, and when there's menstruation, then there are no facilities. If you see but things, at least in your country, I have the impression from your president, things are getting better, but in many other places, no. If you go to a 5-star hotel, everything is cleaned. If you go to McDonald's, everything is cleaned. But why isn't it cleaned in the schools? Or why are there no facility for girls and boys just go to the bushes? I don't understand. But we have to change this. So by coming back, really we have to train teachers. Teachers are so important on your continent. Sub-Saharan Africa, we have not enough teachers, and a lot of them, not like in my country, female, there is on the little ones is mostly trained by women, but they don't even have role models as teachers. I would also invest very much on teachers, and I think I stop here. I think I have said enough, and then afterwards we're going to
off the
thank
stage
you.
soon, they told us, but thank you so much to Renata and Nelly, Salha, the minister, Yasmine, and Dr. Kuhn. As we wrap up, we have heard quite a bit from Renata and Nelly and Salha, but not quite enough. So if we can put on the screen, the 3 of them have put together a blog of additional recommendations for us to consider on the intersection of youth, gender equality, and climate change education. So there should be a QR code, and we'll just, for you to, there we go, a QR code for you to scan and download. That might be a different one. That is, I think, the ECW Climate Emergency Appeal, which is also very important. So, okay, so there's one, but there's another QR code which has their blog, and I really hope that you can read it. So we're going to take 30 more seconds before we wrap up to see if they can find that. Let's see. because there's a lot to be said, and 30 minutes is just not quite enough. Let's see. Did we find it? Oh, they've disappeared. Okay. Well, hopefully, in all cases, if we will circulate this, hopefully we'll ask our host in Dubai Care to be able to host this. Want to thank all of you, and again, want to thank our speakers. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll take a group photo, and then we'll be.
I was hoping we'd come back with the last remarks.
I know.
I know.
They look like we're going to take a group photo. Oh, here we are. Here we go. Thank you, Yasmine. There's the QR code with the blog. Please take a second to do that.